In Charleston, we decided to anchor across from the Coast Guard station on the west side of Charleston City. The closest dinghy dock was at the city marina, which was a long ways to row from the anchorage. The channel between the anchorage and the west side of Charleston, or city marina, is very wide and the current is very strong. If you have a rowing dinghy, I definitely recommend get a dock. We met sailing vessel Karina on the way to Charleston, and we decided to have dinner together, so QP and I are walking across the city from west side to east side to meet them at a restaurant. We were disappointed with the state of repair on the west side of Charleston, but downtown looked very nice. That yellow building across the street is some sort of market, and QP is excited about seeing the inside, so I guess we're going to go have a look. The market was full of local artists selling their arts and crafts. The prices in this market were more than we could afford, so we ended up leaving empty-handed.
The nicest looking boat in the anchorage, that's us.
After only one night, we had had enough of the bright lights and big city, so the next morning we headed out for Beaufort. On the way to Beaufort, South Carolina, we stopped at Church Creek and Rock Creek to fish and relax. We were very happy when Will and Shishi decided to spend Christmas with us. We still haven't figured out how to use the GoPro camera very well. QP's trying to introduce our Christmas dinner and visitors Will and Shishi. Do you remember the lion's mane mushroom from the Southport video? That one was about the size of a softball. The one that we found in Beaufort was about the size of a basketball and probably weighed 15 pounds. We learned two new things about lion's mane mushroom. First, they tend to grow in damages on trees, and the second is they grow in pairs, facing north and south. In this photo, you can see the damage left behind by a broken branch is where the lion's mane mushroom decided to grow. And the second photo is where we found his partner. This is what the mushroom looks like after it's been picked and cleaned and cut up, ready to go into traditional chicken soup. Chicken mushroom soup may be enough to keep the Chinese side of the family happy, but I need a little meat on my bones. We were anchored next to a very nice couple, and QP used the opportunity to try to convert their daughter into becoming a brand spanking new mushroom hunter. This is Will and Shishi's fourth visit to the boat and their first trip off the dock. They decided to leave their car in Beaufort, South Carolina, and travel with us to Fernandina Beach. When we're traveling, my job is to hold the steering wheel. QP's job is to navigate, track our progress on the chart, and find us a place to anchor. Also, she steers while I go to the little boy's room. On the way to Fernandina Beach, we spent 3 nights on anchor. The first night at Bull Creek, South Carolina, the second night at Big Tom Creek, and the third night at Hampton River, Georgia. At one of these anchorages, Shishi and I went out to explore on shore, and we found a nice whelk right before beautiful sunset. After spending the day in Fernandina Beach, we rented a car, drove Will and Shishi back to their car in Beaufort so that they could continue on to home in Charlotte, North Carolina. It seems that when Will and Shishi went home to Charlotte, they took the good weather with them, and we were left with 25 to 30 knot winds in the mooring at Fernandina Beach. We decided to keep the mooring that we were on because the storm coming through was very strong. We thought we would be safer on the mooring. When we made it to St. Augustine, we found out that the moorings could break and the boat would drift off, like in St. Augustine, into a bridge, in which case the mooring company has no liability. As you can see, it was too rough to use our dinghy to row to shore, so we were stuck on the boat for a few days, and we used the time to After completing the seat cushions in the salon, completing the seat cushions at the kitchen table, QP decided she wanted to make new curtains in the boat. So we spent our time making curtains. We have been told that vegetables are hard to find and very expensive in the Bahamas, so we're trying everything we can think of to grow our own. If you've been following us, you know that QP has a garden on the stern of the boat with leaf lettuce, spring onions, garlic, cilantro, jalapeno, and cayenne peppers. In addition to these vegetables, I thought it would be a good idea to add fresh bean sprouts because they grow very fast and only require water. Here are a couple of dishes made using our boat garden vegetables. QP loves to cook almost as much as she loves to fish. Here is a day's catch turned into dinner. If you are wondering, the eel does not taste like chicken. When the storm finally subsided in Fernandina Beach, we dropped the mooring and headed for St. Augustine, Florida. When we arrived in St. Augustine, the Marine Center there had time and space to make the bends in the bow rail that QP and I could not make ourselves. The work was completed correctly, but the accounting was nothing near the written estimate that I signed, which magically disappeared. If anyone would like more information about the St. Augustine Marine Center, feel free to contact us. We were scheduled to have the bow rail done as soon as we arrived, but they did not have the parts or the time. That was okay, they let us sit at the dock till they were ready. QP caught fish 2 at a time until they managed to work us in. We loved walking around the city, looking at the old buildings and reading about the history. St. Augustine is very touristy. Get ready to open your wallet for anything in the waterfront area. But if you get out of this area, prices drop back to normal pretty fast. Our advice? Walk and gawk at the waterfront, then go eat at Carmelo's gas station. While we were here, we found another Cal 246, Old Glory, crewed by the Andersons. You can find Yvonne's photos posted in the sailing group. She has an artistic eye that finds interesting sights that we often miss. Old Glory has been remodeled to better than new condition, and she is, well, glorious. After about 2 weeks in St. Augustine Marine Center, we finally got out and went to the Municipal Marine Center to get a mooring ball, where we stayed for another 2 or 3 weeks.
Come to here, come to our boat. It's coming, they're coming. 3. Wow. How? Can you hear the birds?
The marina here is very professional, clean, and reasonably priced. The moorings were only $20 a night, with ferry service to take you to shore every 2 hours, and a free pump-out boat that comes out to the mooring. Wow, what a deal! There are 2 mooring fields in St. Augustine, one on the north side and the other on the south side of the Bridge of Lions. QP decided to stay on the north side, which is prettier than the south side. But after learning that the moorings are not perfectly safe, I recommend the south side, where you have more time to react should the mooring fail. The north side is very close to the bridge, and you would be on it in less than 5 minutes if your mooring broke loose during the rising tide. St. Augustine is one of QP's favorite cities. It is the oldest city in the USA with the original Spanish feel. QP says it may be the prettiest city she's ever visited. She often sat outside on the back deck watching the night view, and of course, fishing. There is an artsy-fartsy district that QP can get lost in for hours at a time. This is also the home of Flagler College, which surprisingly enough has a lot of Chinese students. For $50 per couple, you can buy a ticket to get on and off of the tram system all day long. We chose to walk. Here's QP exploring the fort at the mouth of the inlet right in downtown St. Augustine. Enterprise has a weekend special, so for $10 a day we decided to rent a car and drive up to Will and Shishi's wedding. The day finally came that we had to say goodbye to St. Augustine and continue our journey south. Our plan was to anchor just southeast of the bridge in Daytona Beach for a few days to let the strong winds from the east blow by. In Titusville, we decided to anchor just outside of the mooring field on the north side. This turned out to be a mistake, as both the anchorage and the moorings are exposed to all winds. The good news is the holding is great. Even at 35 knots, we did not drag.
We just left Marina in our laundry. Then we decided to go back boat because weather is getting worse and worse. The wind is more strong than before now. I feel more dangerous. Yeah. Whoa. When we come back Marina again, because we were supposed to it's us and just beach.
There yet? It was nice and calm when we left the marina. Now it seems the wind and the waves have picked up a little bit.
Now see the waves more big. Wow.
We did make it safely back on board Freya, but we stayed there for the next few days.
So this is the kind of dinghy ride that QP likes. The water is almost flat. You there yet? Are we there yet?
Almost. Here is Marina.
All this trouble for a coffee cup?
You are crazy.
The coffee cup was worth all the effort because it keeps ice for more than 24 hours. And not every day in Titusville was windy. Some days were very, very beautiful. When the winds died, we headed south for Ogali, where you can anchor beside a nice little bar and grill. If I rowed ashore, the calories in the hamburger should be free. After spending the night in Ogali, we got up the next morning and headed for Vero Beach. These are some of the scenes that we saw along the way. Finally arriving in Vero Beach, we planned to pick up a mooring for a few more days. While we were there, we would reprovision and make a plan for when and where to make the crossing to the Bahamas. This is the mooring field at Vero Beach, and if you look carefully, you will see that Freya is number 1. Vero Beach is also known as Velcro Beach among the sailors because oftentimes people get stuck here. But not stuck in a bad way. The marina in Vero Beach is clean, pretty, friendly, convenient, and relatively cheap. The free bus system will pick you up at the front door of the marina and take you anywhere you need to go. And most important, QP says the fishing is great. Why do we need to go on?